Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Talking TV with my mum, the weekly Geek-Dom review and Roundup podcast where we chat about geek/genre TV shows and give you our rundown on them and our take and any talking points that we lift from the episodes of the programmes we watch. It's a little bit later this week, but we had mentioned on the previous podcast that it would be a day late because of various things, school holidays, that kind of thing. But we're here now, and we've got a slightly shorter podcast for you this week in comparison to the last couple because there's only a few shows to discuss. The usual sort of housekeeping applies at the beginning, so if you're new here, then welcome. Thank you for finding us. Hopefully you'll enjoy and we'll entertain you. Go back and listen/watch the other podcasts. There's plenty of them. This is the 23rd now, so we've got a few backed up there. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. That would be fantastic. If you can hit that thumbs up button and leave us a like, then we know that you're enjoying this and enjoying what we do, and that would be greatly appreciated. And comments too. Go down below into the comments section. We'd love to hear from you, get your thoughts, get your feedback on various things, and we'll talk about them during the podcast and give you a shout out and things like that. Also, check out my description box for the timestamps for the episodes, so if you should wish to go to a particular point, then you'll be able to. And also in the description box is the link to my Twitter, so you can come and follow and chat to me on there, and my donation mediums. If you feel kind enough to support the podcast or help support the channel in any way, that would be greatly appreciated. So I think that's it. So we're going to get underway, and I'm going to welcome my co-host. So hello there, Mum. Are you there?
Hello, Dom. Yes, I'm here.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Very hot.
Yeah, it's very warm, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, not knocking it because obviously the summer's nearly ended, but yeah.
I heard today that we might be getting another like a 3-week long heat wave.
From when?
As of now.
Oh, that's all right then, because I'm going to Skeggy at the end of the week. Never mind. Look, it'll end on Friday.
yeah. It won't be 3. It'll be 3 days really, not 3 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh, really? Or they'll have the thunderstorms over that weekend, and it'd be lovely when I go back to work.
Yeah, probably.
That's usually the norm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be nice. Oh, sort of nice, but too warm. But
yeah.
Oh well. Can't have everything, can you?
No. So, how are you feeling about last week's? You happy with it? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Yes.
Good. Well, in relation to last week's podcast, we have some comments that I'm just going to run through quickly, as we do from every week now. So, to start with, we have a comment from Falling Hurts, and he said, "Hey guys, you don't know how much this makes me want to do something with my mom. I'd love to do creating with her as well. It's just a wholesome time overall."
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, isn't that lovely? And he also then left an additional comment a bit later on saying about Stranger Things 3 that I should watch Stranger Things 3 again. And then he said, although I really like what you had to say about it. So.
Oh, that's good.
So
Next, he's probably saying, I missed that. Maybe I missed that bit. Well, like when we talk about it, he's thinking, oh yeah, that makes sense. I need to watch it again now.
Mm-hmm.
As well. I think, like we do with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah, that was nice. So thank you for those comments. And yeah, do something, if you've got the ability, if you've got a shared interest or something you can do with your mum, then do it. We have a blast doing this. So yeah.
Oh, I love it.
So that's that one. Zoe left a little comment just about Legion. Now, remember last week when we talked about Legion and we were both struggling to come up with what the name was for the weapon that David created?
Oh, yeah.
So she left a comment.
I said nunchuck or something, didn't I? And you
said
something else. And what was it?
So she said, was it a mace? And as soon as I read that comment, my brain dinged and I went, no, it wasn't. It was this thing. And I remembered what it's actually called.
Morning Star?
Yes, it's a Morning Star.
Ah, yeah. I just thought of it as you said it. I was thinking, that's what it what it is, isn't it? It's called a Morning Star, isn't it?
Yeah, because the mace, obviously a mace is the ball on a stick, and then the Morning Star is the one that's on the stick but attached to a chain.
Spiky.
And
spiky,
yeah. So that was, that jogged my memory.
Oh. Well, thanks, Joey, for trying to help us.
Yeah,
because we were a bit stumped.
We struggled a little bit, so yeah, appreciate that, Zoe. A comment from somebody that I've recently been chatting to a fair bit and watching some of her videos. She's another small YouTuber called Emma. Her channel is Azuru Plays, and she has some very nice narration, very softly spoken voice, lovely. Play some puzzle games and things like that. And she said, in relation to the podcast, she said, "This is adorable. It's nice to listen into your chat with your mum about something that you're so passionate about." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." And then I said, "So you enjoyed it then?" And she said, "Yes, I loved it. It helps me decide what series I want to invest my time into."
Ooh,
So that
that's
was
cool.
good. So that's what that's one of the things we like to do from this is that, as we've said before, when we talk about things like Legion and we say, it's really good, you should go and watch it. So it's like, yeah, you might come to this podcast and be familiar with the shows and you might watch them and just be interested in our take, but equally, you may not know these shows, you may not watch them, you may have thought, oh, it's not for me, but then you listen to us talking about it and go, actually, do you know what? So it's nice that we've got a bit of feedback that has basically said that, it's along those lines.
Well, it's like when anyone tells you something about something and you sort of go, that sounds intriguing. I never thought about watching it, but maybe I'll watch it. So us doing it weekly, when there's things on, people sort of go, I didn't know that program was going to be actually as good as it sounded.
Yeah. So
yeah, cool. Thank you for that.
Thank you for that, Emma. And she's not long hit 100 subscribers, so she's she's sort of chugging away there, working away to get
Well
her
done
numbers
for 100
up.
subscribers.
Yes, well done. So then, obviously, you left your obligatory message to say that it was a great podcast and a great Sunday afternoon listening. So I'm glad that you thought so. And then we had a series of messages where it was a conversation I ended up getting into with Will. So Will had so he said that he loved the podcast, he really enjoyed it, and he was very appreciative of the shout out that we gave him last week. And that was nice that he appreciated that. But his question was not show related, it was more related to the actual podcast.
Okay.
And he said, just a short one, but how about you and Mama do a live stream sometime? I would love that. Your thoughts? And so I said, as in a live podcast, you mean? And he said, yes, a live one. And I was like, maybe. We'll have to think about that one. And he put, yay, that's a yes then, lol. So, I've never considered that until Will left that comment. How do you feel about, at some point in the future, seeing if we could do a live one?
Yeah, I'll be up for it.
It would be interesting because it would be like raw and unedited, it'd be like all of the little moments that we cut out and completely unfiltered and uncensored, and it would just be,
funny.
Yeah, I mean, if other people, okay, so let's put this to the test. So Will has said that he'd be interested in that. We're up for it if we can logistically work it all out. We would do it at some point. How many more people would be interested in that? Like, because ultimately,
how many other people would tune in to the live stream to listen to it?
Yeah, because that's the thing. If we're going to sort of take that time out to schedule it around, like your work and things like that to do it live, then we'd need to have a decent amount of people actually, there while we were doing it live. So if you feel that you could, and we could work out some scheduling and things that it would fit around people that they could tune into it and stuff like that, if you think that's a good idea and you'd be up for that, drop us a line in the comments and let us know, and we'll take it under consideration and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah.
That sound like a plan?
Sounds like a great plan.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd love that. That'd be great.
It's an interesting idea. Like I said, I never really considered doing something like that.
I'm such a YouTuber person now.
I know. So there we go. So that's the comments from last week's podcast. So thank you again for those, everybody. And please feel free to leave comments, and we'll do for those guys the same for you guys if you leave us comments. So yeah. Now, the only other thing before we get into the meat of the podcast is just a couple of bits and pieces of news. So some of this might not be, directly relatable to you, Mum, but like, given we are a geek podcast, it sort of made sense to bring up some of these bits and pieces. A lot of people are probably going to be aware a lot of these things because, they've been out all over the internet, so we're not by any means...
And because I'm not, because I don't.
Yeah.
I'll be really interested.
we're not breaking any ground here with news that people aren't aware of, I don't think. But you never know, it might have passed you by, in which case then I'm happy to to fill you in. But
Share the news.
over the last few days, we have had the D23 Expo, which is Disney's expo that they do, where they show off a lot of their projects they're working on and what's to come from them and things like that. And I wanted to hone in specifically on things that are sort of relatable to the channel. We're going to start things off on a bit of a bum note. So before D23, it was really awful timing. It was a couple of days before, and people might be aware of all of this that's been going on. But Spider-Man is out of the MCU. So Disney/Marvel and Sony Pictures have not been able to negotiate a satisfactory deal that will allow Spider-Man to remain part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So as of right now, there will be no other Spider-Man appearances in any of the other Marvel movies, and the next Spider-Man film, which indeed there is going to be a third Spider-Man film, they are working on it, they've got plans for it, but it's going to be completely separate from everything that's gone before, which is a real shame and a real kick in the teeth for the fans, I think, because it just goes to show how corporate business and money can spoil things that we like. It's like they're taking our toys away and saying, no, you can't play with these figures anymore. They're off limits now. There is hope still that something could be sorted out. I mean, it's not a completely dead in the water thing. I mean, business things change, people renegotiate, and they'll return with a new offer and things like that. And I'm not going to get into... I have my opinions on this whole situation and who I feel the finger of blame should be pointed at, but I'm not going to use this podcast as a soapbox to get into all of that. Yeah. But I just hope that they can work something out, because Tom Holland has been great, great young English actor that's, taken to this Spider-Man role and has been the best incarnation of Spider-Man we've had so far. And so much of his story has been built upon what they've been doing in the other Marvel films. So for him now to suddenly go solo, and it's going to be weird because it's like they're not going to be able to reference any of the other stuff, because it's like, no, it's separate now, and it's going to be really odd, and I don't know how it's going to work and whether it's going to feel disjointed, and then we're going to end up, with yet another Spider-Man franchise that's doomed to fail, just like the previous attempts were.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll sort something out. But that's the sour news. The good news is that they announced a whole bunch of things. So we talked about a couple of podcasts back. We talked about some of the Comic-Con stuff, about all the things that were coming. They've announced some other stuff now. So they've talked a little bit about some of the shows that we already knew about, and they had some casting announcements and things like this. We found out that, Agent May from S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes.
Ming-Na Wen is the actress's name. She is joining... oh, no, I've forgotten which show it is now. But she's joining some other projects. So she's going to be involved in... Oh, damn it. It's completely slipped my mind now what she's going to be showing up in. Because I was like, oh, wow, so she's finished up with S.H.I.E.L.D., she's going to be doing the X, Y, and Z things. Because I know she's in the new Mulan live-action movie they're making. But it's also a series that she's going to be a part of.
It might come to you by the end of you saying all the other bits.
Kit Harington, who was Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, was announced to be a part of this new phase of Marvel stuff. And then it was like, well, who's he going to be? And then they made the announcement and said he's going to be playing this character called Black Knight, who is a pretty cool sort of cosmic knight, basically. And he's going to be showing up in the Eternals movie, which is going to be coming out next year. So that's going to be quite cool. They had some other things to do with some of the, like I said, some of the stuff that we knew about already. They showed off, a bit more extended footage of various things. They talked about the WandaVision show, which is apparently going to start out quite whimsical. And in places, it's going to resemble the Dick Van Dyke Show, in terms of it being a slapstick sitcom sort of format, but then it's going to get very weird and very dark by the end of the series. So, sounds very intriguing. So yeah, I'm interested in that. There was also, they announced some new shows to go along with the Disney Plus shows that they've got already announced. They also announced we're going to be getting a Miss Marvel show, which is related to Captain Marvel, but she's a younger girl, and she was the first, I think I'm right in saying this, she's the first Muslim Marvel superhero.
Ooh,
so
interesting.
that's quite cool. And they've also said, even though her show is going to start out as a show, it's going to be a TV series, she's going to also cross over into the big screen and appear in movies as well. So that's quite cool. They also announced a She-Hulk series, which I was quite happy about because there's been talk about this for ages. And
no.
I'm intrigued what they do with that, because in the comics, the character of She-Hulk, by day she's a lawyer. So she works as a lawyer, and then obviously she's also a female version of the Hulk. So it would be interesting if they balance it, in the same way that they did a little bit with Daredevil, where they had him doing some of the legal stuff as well. They showed some of the court cases.
Yeah, he's been a lawyer, but yeah.
So it's like, will they do something similar with her and have it as like a gritty sort of legal procedural show, but with a superhero twist? So that could be quite intriguing, but there's no other details, and we don't know who's going to play the part or anything like that, but they said it's coming. Now, another show that a lot of people have been hoping that they were going to announce as a film or something for a long time is a character called Moon Knight. And Moon Knight, in some ways, is kind of a bit like the Batman of the Marvel Universe. He's a dark, brooding character. He's got a bit of a mystical backstory, though, in that, he was a normal guy, and he ends up getting sort of possessed or, like, inhabited by this ancient Egyptian god. So he has all of these, like, mystical powers that are granted to him by the gods of Egypt. And then he's like a nighttime vigilante protector of the city that is able to not only have all these cool combat skills, but also be able to call upon these sort of mystical energies from the ancient Egyptian gods, which is quite a cool idea. So I imagine that's going to be a darker sort of supernatural series that they're going to do. So that'll be quite cool. So that was a couple of things. And then what else did they announce? Oh, they announced some more new film news, and something that I think has got a lot of people very happy is Black Panther 2 was officially announced, and that's coming out, I think, May the 6th, 2022, that movie's scheduled for. So that's going to be interesting. My speculation, those of you that are following this news and have looked at the poster, I think it looks like he's under the sea. So from the image, it's got a very interesting blue colour tinge, and his suit looks different, which, when I talked to Zoe about it, she said it's possible the suit could be fitted with some kind of breathing apparatus, and that's why it looks slightly different. So it could be that they're introducing Atlantis into the Marvel movie universe and stuff like that. So if they do, that'll be quite exciting. So yeah, there's been quite a few things coming out of that. The other thing I'm really excited about, Mum, now this is a throwback. This is not to do with the Disney stuff. This is a separate thing. They announced we are getting a brand new Masters of the Universe TV show.
Oh.
So He-Man is returning, and it's going to be a cartoon.
I have the power!
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a cartoon. It's going to be on Netflix, and it's going to be a continuation of the original 80s cartoon show. So they're not messing with it. They're not going to retcon it. They're not going to try and modernize it or meddle with it in any way.
Oh, that's even better. I'll probably watch it then.
Yeah, they are just.
I'm like.
They're just using modern animation techniques and script writing to bring it up to date. But it's gonna pick up on some of the storylines that never got finished when the original 80s TV show ended. So they're like, they were thinking, and all the people that are involved in it are all massive fans of He-Man. So it's like, well, it's in good hands because the people that are making it are fans of the original TV show.
Are dedicated to the,
So they're going to do it justice. And I mean,
hey, I'll watch that.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's funny because it's actually being spearheaded by the guy that I've talked about before and that a lot of people are familiar with, Kevin Smith, who does the Fat Man Beyond podcast that I listen to quite regularly. And he has teased for a while that he was involved in something, and it was a legacy franchise. It was an old show that was being brought back and all of this kind of stuff. And then they've now had the official announcement that it's going to be Masters of the Universe, and I was like, that's so cool.
Oh, I bet you were well excited. You used to love that.
Yeah, totally. So
and I used to love watching it with you, so.
So yeah, I am looking forward to that. It's going to be good. And they've also, one of the things they have said though is that it's going to be a little bit grittier than the original. And they said, do you remember, like, as kids watching the original, you watched it and you were like, oh man, you know, I wish that this had happened, or that, and like your fantasy versions of the show that you did with your figures and stuff sometimes was better than what was on the actual cartoon. And they said, well, you know, growing up as kids watching the show and having those fantasies in our heads, we're now going to bring that to the screen. So you're going to get proper epic sword battles. You're going to get, you know, like when you see a character that's super strong and they throw somebody through a wall, it's going to break and there's going to be masonry everywhere and dust and it's going to look really epic and stuff like that. There's going to be really big epic fight scenes and things. So it's like all the things you could have imagined that you wanted from the original He-Man, we're going to do in this show. So it's like, oh, that's really exciting.
That's cool.
So that's cool. Not news as such because it's been out there for a little while, but this week sees the release of the Dark Crystal TV show on Netflix. So that's going to be interesting. So I'm looking forward to that.
Days.
And it's
Dark
all
Crystal.
they dug out a lot of the original puppets, so it's not CGI, it's not anything like that. It's Jim Henson puppets.
Oh my days! That's one of the classics.
Yeah,
isn't it?
and it's keeping the look and the feel and the tone of the original movie. And by the sounds of things, like each episode is 10. There's 10 episodes, and they are all an hour long. So
wow,
you're gonna get. It's almost like getting several Dark Crystal movies, but in the form of a TV show. So
there's a lot of people from that era going to want to watch that.
Absolutely. So yeah, that starts at the end of this week. That's I think the 30th. I think that premieres.
Oh, I'll have to look out for that then.
So yeah, so that's exciting.
That's brilliant.
So yeah, so a few bits and pieces there. I think they were the main things. There were a few extra things that weren't D23 related. There may be a few things that come out after the event. So by the time we record the podcast again on Friday, I might have some more stuff to add in there. Two things. I have two other things. Both a bit sad again. So you will be really disappointed to hear that Krypton has been cancelled.
Seriously?
Yep. So even though it seemed like it was going well and they were building, and I mean, again, on the Fat Man Beyond podcast a few podcasts ago, so maybe like 3-4 weeks ago, they had the guy Cameron Croft or whatever his name is. He was on the podcast and he did a really good pitch for the show, and it was like all the people there were like, oh, this sounds great, and loads. I remember reading the comments and people
I remember
going,
you telling me about that.
Yeah, and saying, oh well, I hadn't really considered Krypton, but I'm going to go and watch it now. And now,
so are they going to finish it at all? Or is that it? That's when it ended. That's it.
Yeah, the end of season 2. That's it. It's not coming back again. And it was
open-ended, so you never know. Somebody else might.
I mean, it's possible that someone might come in and save it, just in the way that The Expanse was saved. They might, you know, because it's a sci-fi show.
Because it was very exciting. The last season, seriously, it was so good.
But they had positioned that they were going to do a Lobo spin-off show. That's also been cancelled. So anything to do with that universe, they just seem to have pulled the plug on it for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah, that's disappointing. The other disappointing thing, although his storyline is coming to an end, they're going to tell the tale and it's going to have a satisfying ending, is that both Ray and Nora are going to be leaving Legends of Tomorrow this season coming.
No, we can't lose Ray. We can't lose haircut.
Mm-hmm.
What's Mick going to do without a haircut?
I know. And Nate.
Oh, and Nate. They're bromance.
Yeah, so yeah, they've it's announced.
I mean, Nora, not so much, but definitely Ray.
Yeah.
Do you think it's because he's doing that other thing?
What other thing?
Didn't you say he's got portraying something in something else?
Well, he's playing a version of...
Oh, that's to do with the Legends, though, isn't it?
He's playing a version of Superman in the Crisis crossover, but not anything I've heard outside of the DC TV shows, so I don't know what he's doing next, but yeah... I read it the other day and it said Brandon Routh and I can't think of the name of the actress, but the actress that plays Nora.
That's the girl he likes though, isn't it? So maybe they'd just go off into the sunset.
Yeah, it seems like they're sort of building towards wrapping up their storyline and things like that. But it's a bit of a shame, but you know, they are going to be writing an ending to their story, so at least it won't
They'll
just
have to get
be
some
they're
new people on
gone.
board then if they get rid of him at least.
Yeah, they will.
So, who will we get next?
But yeah, so that was some other news, and I think that's about it. So, like I said, I'm sure I'll have some more bits again on Friday for the next podcast.
Yeah.
But there we go. So that was the bits of news.
Right, you got your paper?
Yes, I've got my notes.
I did the rattle for you. The paper slapping.
Right, so let's get
Trevor.
underway. Yes, Trevor. Let's get underway then with a slightly more exciting episode of Fear the Walking Dead this week, which was episode 10, and it was called 210 Words Per Minute. And this was, I feel, in a way, it was a bit of their homage to George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead with the shopping mall. That was the vibe I got from this episode. We got underway with it was a voiceover, wasn't it? It was a voiceover.
Yeah, we started with a bird, a real bird.
Yeah.
With a nest with eggs in. That was like bizarre. Yeah, and we could hear somebody talking, which obviously was a message they'd sent to our gang about this place. He was in the shopping mall.
Yeah.
And he said, "We've got everything. You'll find everything you need. I know you're looking to help people, but I'm past helping. By the time I want you to find me. I want you to kill me when you find me and bury me under the stars." So basically, that's what he's saying. By the time they get there, it'll be too late for him, but he wants them to find this place.
Because he said that the place where I am has got everything that you could possibly need that will be really helpful for you. And his name was Chuck, was the name of the guy. And
he said he'd be wearing a red shirt, and he'd be meet them. He'd be in his office, didn't he say?
Yes, and did he tell them that he was? No, he didn't tell them what he was going to do. We found that out. But yeah, he said he was going to go to the security office, and that's where they would find him. And as you said, he would have turned into a walker by this point, so he wanted them to put him out of his misery and then bury him under the stars.
Yeah. So we started off where we could hear this banging. And then we saw this walker, which was ironically had a sort of red shirt on.
Yeah.
It's like, is that him? So he's walking. This walker's walking towards the banging, and basically it was Dwight was the outside with
Was it like an axe? Yeah.
Kind of breaking, and obviously his head, the walker's head happened to be where he was mashing into the door. So he got pretty squished by then.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then we found out it was Morgan and Grace and Dwight had gone to the place. That this guy, they decided we're going to go and see what this is all about.
Yep.
And they were like, whoa, look at this. Because it's like, it was just like, they'd known from years gone by before everything kicked off, or months gone by. I don't know how long they've known it. But what was hilarious now this whole thing, they find some jelly sweets. She eats these sweets and is going, have some. And she handed some to Morgan. And she kept calling them candy
beansies, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like this persisted throughout the whole episode to a certain point, didn't it? Where it's like, what did you just call them?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, this is really odd. There's obviously a relevance to this. But anyway, so the guy, so they basically found they went to the office first, didn't they? And they found he wasn't there.
And they found that he tried to tie himself to a chair, and obviously had broken free. So they looked and they saw all the frayed ropes and stuff. While they were also in the office, they had a bit of a look around, and there was an iPod with a note to her.
With a note to Grace, and he said, "Do you know who he is?" And she said, "Well, maybe he remembers me for the videos."
Yeah.
And I said, "I like listening to I like stories, reading, or whatever."
And he said he preloaded
on this iPod, on it was the Tale of Two Cities.
And this sort of continued throughout the whole episode every so often, didn't it?
Good.
Where it would go out,
so throughout the episode, kept hearing bits of it, which was really cool.
It was the best of times, it was the worst of times.
Yeah, I loved. I thought I need to get an audio of that myself. So basically, so they were looking around, and then was that when she wasn't feeling great anyway, was she? And she collapsed at one point, and so they found there was beds, because obviously it's a mole. There was a shop with the beds in. They got her to the beds, and they said, well, she needs some water. And Dwight said, I'll go and get the water.
Yeah.
So he went off outside. We had a little snippet of the caravan of cars on the road with Daniel, the cat. and he realised he lost all the shell cases, and obviously this Logan's guy is going like, they've been here pretty recently.
Yeah.
And apparently they made it, the signal was, if he contacted them, which he didn't do by voice, he played some music, that was to let them know that the guy had hit another truck stop.
Yeah.
So while Dwight was outside, he heard this, and when he got the water, and I think, was it Morgan went outside, didn't he? And he gave him the water. He says, just had a message from Daniel. It sounds like Morgan's just hit another truck stop. So I'm going to go back to them. And then Morgan said, well, we'll stay here and see what else we can find while we're here. So he said, okay. So anyway, when he went back in, he got his gun out. And this was really odd, obviously, at the time. He was like, got his gun. Thought, oh, what's this all about? Took the actual cartridges out of the gun.
Yeah.
So it was like an unloaded gun. Put it in his pocket. Then he got on the walkie, didn't he?
Before, if I can just interject. So,
yes.
Couple of quick little points here. So, one of the first things, there was a cool visual image that we sort of didn't discuss quickly. When they went into the mall, as you mentioned to start with, obviously it looked untouched and like it was back before. And then they were looking around, and then they went to like the balcony because it was a multi-level mall. And they went to the balcony.
The escalators, wasn't it?
And they shone their torches down, and there were just tons of zombies all on the lower level, just loads of them. So it's like,
that was funny, wasn't it? Because he goes, we'll go sort them out. And he goes, so you're going to go and kill something that's already dead?
Yeah. Because they were obviously looking.
It's like, you're going to kill something that's already dead.
Yeah, because they were looking for the guy with the red jacket, and there was obviously loads of zombies down there. So that was cool, though, the reveal when they leaned over the balcony, and you saw their faces from the other side, and then it sort of panned round, and you got to see what they were looking at, and there were just tons of zombies all below them.
So many of them just wandering around at the bottom of the escalator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a cool
thing. That's when he also
thing.
said about going as well, wasn't it? He said, although that's when she collapsed, because they turned around and went, Grace, you're right, and she collapsed, and there was the beansies all over the place.
Because the other thing about her collapsing was that prior to that, when she got the candy beansies, she said it was to do with her blood sugar, and so she was like, "Oh, I'll take this." So the first thought, when you see she's collapsed, it's like, "Oh, it's something to do with that. Maybe she's diabetic or something we don't know about." So there was an air of mystery about what made her collapse. So the fact that I felt that was relevant, that they had that line about her blood sugar and stuff prior to that happening and her eating the sweets. Like you said, obviously the Dwight going to volunteer. Morgan also had a little bit of a brief conversation with him about people changing and giving people chances and things like this, and remembering that, and like, you and I have come a long way from where we started, given the fact that they know each other from back in the main show, from when Dwight was part of the Saviors. And he's like, but, look how far we've come, man. And Dwight's like, yeah, okay. So you're like, oh, that was an interesting little kind of conversation. And then that plays back into what you were just about to say, which is, after all that, Morgan goes back inside. Because he also said about, didn't he say to him, rather than radioing and alerting them to possibly getting alerted to where they were, to go and meet up and bring the rest of the convoy there, because they would need more hands to help get stuff out of the mall that they would need. Yeah. And so Dwight's like, okay.
They'd stay and have a look and find the stuff, and then he was going to bring them back to there so that they could get the stuff. So he's like, go and find them, rather than actually, say, radio silence and all that, what they were trying to portray. So that was really odd. And then obviously then we hear him say something to, potentially Daniel, but it was obviously on a different,
frequency.
Because obviously he said about, I'm heading on this road, blah, blah, blah.
It was very specific, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it's like, okay, the gun, the thing when he took the thing out of the gun, it's like, what's he up to? So basically he went off. Meanwhile, back in the mall, Grace was telling Morgan that she would like to find out, because she's recovering on the bed, saying that she knows she's really ill from this radiation. She really wants to know how bad her illness is.
Yeah.
And she'd said she'd spotted an urgent care clinic. And she goes, if I get in there, I could do an X-ray or something. Then at least I know, whether I'm going to survive or die anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
So they go, okay, we're going to go. But was that the bit when she wandered off?
Yeah,
because she had a can of something. It looked like petrol, didn't it?
So they needed to, obviously the urgent care clinic was there, and it was like, well, have I got radiation poisoning, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then they needed to...
Well, they realised
I'm trying to remember the order.
Were.
And they needed to start a generator.
they said they need. Oh, that's why she had the thing in her hand, wasn't it? Because
Yeah.
that was the oil for the generator.
Mm.
So basically, she'd spotted that it was. She could see it. It was
Yeah.
downstairs. And then he stopped her, didn't he? He said, "What's going on?" She goes, "Well, I need." And he didn't know she was. She goes, "Well, it's there. I need to get to it. We need to go. I need to go down there."
Yeah.
So, okay. And then obviously that was clever then, because obviously then. Oh no, that was when. No, they got trapped at some point, didn't they? Did they?
So what happened? So they need obviously realise they need to get the power on and everything with the generator, and they set off to do various things. And then Grace spotted the walkers. They did a thing with a remote control car to try and draw the walkers away, so they have a safe passage, didn't they? And they set off a little remote control car. Morgan was controlling it, and then the walkers were all chasing it. And then that allowed them to go to the bottom floor.
And so he lost his train of thought because he was remotely controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, because he wasn't controlling it anymore, they were trampling on. He looked around and she'd gone a different way because she said, "Oh, I'm sure I spotted somebody in a red shirt."
Yeah, she thought. Well, she didn't know. She didn't tell him that. She just saw this guy and thought, "Oh, that's the guy," and we made a promise to him. But then, as she was like sneaking up behind all these walkers, she stepped on something. It made a crunching noise, and then the car had fallen.
Like a packet or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, the car had like fallen over, so they were all just milling around. She crunched something. That then alerted them. They all turned round, and then you're like, "Oh no! All the walkers are now coming towards her." So that wasn't good at all. Because wasn't it the bit before that when they realised they couldn't open the door and it was like locked or something and they set off an alarm.
Yeah, that's right. They found the place. She got to the place and she was trying to, because they had like one of those things that come down. It's like a metal thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So she's like trying to open this, and then she set off the alarm, which then set them off again. And they just run into a random shop, didn't they? It looked like a shoe shop, didn't it?
No, wasn't it like a sports?
They barricade themselves.
Like a sports shop or something.
Maybe it was trainers. Trainers I saw then. Yeah, so they got themselves in there and locked the door. Was that when she started chatting to him more about herself?
Yeah, and she tells him, they have a heart-to-heart, and she tells him a bit about various things, about how she's never been a brave person, and stuff about her childhood. Was it something about a horse? Yeah.
Yeah, she wanted to ride a horse, but when she had the opportunity of doing it, she wouldn't do it because she was scared. She tells Morgan about the horses, saying that something about she wanted to ride a horse and she loved horses, but when it came to it, she couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And then didn't she also mention about why she called these things
candy beanses?
Yeah, candy beanses.
Yeah.
And no one ever pulled her up on it.
Yeah, it was her. Was it her mum that used to tell her things like that they were different names? And she said, "I've always believed that's what they were called." And he said, "They're jelly beans," and he started laughing. And they had this moment of humour when you've got the doors. They're like at the end of the room are just like covered in walkers all like trying to get in, and they're sitting there having this little laughing conversation about candy beansies and about the fact that. And then what did she say about something about what something else was called? And he went, "No, that's what it's called." And she went, "Oh, okay." So she didn't.
It was pasta something sauce or something.
Yeah.
Something to do with pasta sauce. And he goes, "No, didn't she say that one right?" And he goes, "You got that one right." Or
yeah.
Something funny.
She didn't.
But there was this lovely little moment, and then they realised the walkers were pushing on the glass of this shop.
Mm-hmm.
It started cracking, and he goes, because obviously he'd already checked the back door, because he was saying, "Oh, Dwight will be back soon," and then obviously he couldn't hear anything because he was tapping on it, and nothing came towards that door.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Got to get out of here." So they went via the back door.
Yeah, because the walkers started breaking through.
Yeah, it was cracking, wasn't it? It was cracking the glass. So I thought, we've got to get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so then they found the room. Didn't they first find the room and they found the keys for the thingy care?
No. I remember now. Okay, so we got a little bit of our timeline messed up here. In the they had the bit where they got caught in that bit because of her getting the walker's attention back by trying to kill the one that she thought was the guy, which turned out wasn't the guy. Then they managed to get out of that room and they went on the run again and they ended up where the generator was. And when they got there, they had another heart-to-heart where Morgan told her information about his life and about his wife and his kid.
Yeah, because she said didn't she say about the remote control car, saying, did he have one? He goes, "Oh, my days, did he have one?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Who?" And he goes, "Your son." And then she goes, "I've seen the videos." And I've seen the videos when you talk about them, and he sort of still didn't want to talk about it, did he?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yes, I did buy him one of those.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, bless him. But then she found the keys for the lock place, and then Morgan spotted the CCTV,
Mm-hmm.
and they saw the guy, and he was outside. It's like, that's him. He's on the roof.
Yeah, well, that was after the bit with the walkers. So they got the power back on, and they headed out to the urgent care centre, only to find the gate was locked. They tried lifting it up, but then it was alarmed, so the alarm went off, which then got the walkers coming after them. Then that was then the bit with the escalators, wasn't it? Because they got the power back on.
Yeah, because they got the generator on. The escalator was working, but because it was working, they started coming up the escalator, didn't they?
Yeah, because they ran away when the alarm went off. They ran away, went up the escalator, and the zombies started following them up the escalator. So Morgan was trying to fight them off, and then he fell over, and luckily she saved the day. But then they had them sort of funneled. So they were coming up, but not managing to get up en masse. They were like one at a time. But Morgan was like, I'm really running out here, and she'd run out of bullets, and she had an idea to reverse the direction of the escalators. So then she turned it changed the settings so that it then went backwards, because it was like, well, it won't turn off, so the only way we can do it is to make it go the other way. So then that way, but then Morgan fell over and was getting pulled down, and then she had to help him, pull him back up. Luckily, she got him back up. The escalator went the other way, and then all the zombies were stuck at the bottom again. And then they were like, right, we need to find the key. So then they headed off to the office. And because
was that when they went to the office? And
that's when they saw the cameras, because the power was now all turned back on, and they saw the guy up on the roof, and they're like, wait, he's still alive. So they make their way up to the roof.
No, before they went to the roof, they got to the place, and she turned around and said, I've changed my mind now. Don't want to find out what's wrong with me.
No, that was after. It was after they saw Chuck, because it was what he had to say that made her decide she didn't want to go ahead with it after that, because he said something that made her think about life and about living in the moment and all of this stuff. So she, at that point, she was still thinking about going into the urgent care centre, but then they headed up to the roof, they found this guy, and he was out there, and he was like, really pleased to meet them, but he was on his last legs, and he said, I'm really sorry to have put you to trouble. He said, I did tie myself in there, but then I realised if you didn't get to me, I might never get to see the stars, so I managed to drag myself up here. And then he said about the zombies in the corridor, and he said, I hope they didn't give you too much trouble. And they're like, no, it was fine, no trouble at all, even though they'd been running halfway around the shopping mall trying to get away from them. And then he said, it's typical though, I get up here, and it's a cloudy sky, and I don't even get to see the stars. And then they sat there with him, laughing and all of this stuff, and then Grace was like, hey, I had an idea, wait a minute. And she heads off, and then she comes back, and she found this toy that was like a nightlight.
Yeah, it was like a tortoise or something, wasn't it?
And so she puts it under. There was like a little roof next to them. She puts it under there, turns it on, and it projects stars onto the thing. So then the guy's able to sit there, and he's like, I can see the stars again, sort of thing. And it was really sweet, and it was like, oh, that was quite nice.
Sweet and sad at the same time, wasn't it? And then the next thing we knew, they were burying him outside.
And then that's when she decided she didn't want to know, because she said after meeting him, she said he had belief that he wanted to continue, and he wanted to do one last thing, which was to see the stars, even despite everything that was going on, and even despite what was in the mall with him, he managed to drag himself up here. So that's made her believe that she wants to try and continue, and believe that there's more than just today. So she'd rather not know and just keep on living, and to be brave, because she's never been brave.
Yeah, because the generator. Well, yeah, because she was like, I don't want to know. I don't want to dwell on it, because once I know something, I'll dwell on it. And she goes, I just got to enjoy what I got while I've got it, and then hopefully I haven't got it as bad.
Yeah.
Basically, wasn't it? But then, because the generator was on, the carousel was, because obviously at the beginning there was a carousel, wasn't it, in the opening credits?
Yep.
So obviously there's horses. And she was frightened to go on a real horse.
Mm-hmm.
So she decided to go on the carousel, and then she got Morgan to get on it as well, didn't she?
Yeah. And they had a good laugh, and it was all happy. And then all the others...
It was so sweet.
The others arrived to help them pack everything up. And before we talk about... Because that's going into the ending. Before we talk about that, we will then shift focus...
Talk about Dwight.
To Dwight. So all of that's going on, and in the meantime, Dwight has gone off, and he hasn't really gone off to go and get the others at all. He's gone off down this route, and we see him on the side of the road having a wee, and then a guy comes up behind him and puts a gun to his head.
And then he chucks him in the back of a lorry. And then when he comes back...
What's funny is that he explained, basically at that point when he was still having a wee, he said to the guy, "You're one of Logan's men, aren't you?" And he's like, I knew, I knew that you would come, sort of thing. And he's like, I outsmarted you, kind of thing.
And anyway, so he tied him up, chucked him in the lorry, then he left him for a bit. And then he came back and he was so... I don't know, what was he saying? What was the word he used? He had all the paperwork out of his car to do with his wife.
Yeah, all the letters. He was on about a bit of... Oh, what was he called? It was
What's
basically...
the word he used?
He was talking about women, and he was like... It was like not a very nice way of sort of, referring to women. I can't remember what it was now. It wasn't like a piece of tail or a piece of arse or a skirt or something like that. It was something...
No,
it was some kind of like American phrase that, like, he was sort of referring to, like...
Yeah, and I said, like to get myself a piece of that, and he was looking at the stuff, oh, honey, and all this. Dwight's, like, so angry with him, it's like... And then, but wasn't it... While he was in the actual place, didn't they... he was trying to get himself undone, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So when the guy came back and taunting him, basically, he started burning the stuff, didn't he?
Yeah.
And then he grabbed him, didn't he? Did he get him with? Because he obviously was still tied up to a point. He then got the guy that was, the guy that just captured him.
Yeah.
And then he left him in the lorry for a minute.
Yeah, he managed to break.
Didn't he? Just like.
He broke free, pulled the gun on the guy, but didn't pull the trigger, and then locked him up in the back of the truck, like you said. And then when we got, obviously, then it went back to the others, but we've talked about all that. So then when it returned to them, he then opened the truck up and let the guy out. And then he had him tied up and he had the gun to his head and stuff, didn't he? And he was like saying to him about who he used to be. And he said, you're right that, because the guy had said something about him being a bad guy or something. He said, you're right. I used to be. And he said, the people I used to run with, I did similar things to what you're doing now. And it still haunts me because, I was led to believe what we were doing was right, but instead what we were doing was wrong. And then somebody else taught me recently that people can have second chances and people can change. And then that was the relevance of the conversation he'd had with Morgan, which then he then decided to take Morgan's path. Instead of taking the fight to Logan and his men, he decided, no, I'm going to give you the chance to walk away here. And he said, and the guy's like, what do you expect me to do? And he's like, well, I'm going to cut you free, and then you're going to turn around and you're going to walk away, and then you're going to make a new choice, and you're going to take a different direction in your life, and you're going to change the way that you do things, just in the way that I have. Somebody gave me that opportunity, I'm going to give you the same opportunity. And the guy didn't really know what to do with himself. He's a bit like, okay, this is a bit weird. But he did,
Because at some point he found out that he didn't have a loaded gun as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's like, why would you come out here without a loaded gun? Because he's like, I've not come to kill anyone. I just wanted to talk some sense into somebody, basically, wasn't it?
Yeah. And so then he let the guy
and he just wandered off, didn't he?
That was the end of that. And then that's when it then ties back in, because then obviously he then met up with the others, and they all showed up at the mall to load everything up. And
Daniel was asking, when he got to the mall, he asked Morgan, have they got this thing? Have they got this shop? Have they got that? It was food shops, I think.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, none of that, none of that, none of that. He goes, oh, okay. So then we saw that everybody helping move stuff around, and her still listening to her Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
So we saw all this stuff going on. They loaded all the stuff up, and while they were there, Daniel cut Dwight's hair.
Yeah, while they were there, Daniel finally got to cut his hair. That's right.
That was at the mall, wasn't it?
Yeah.
and then they all got loaded up, and poor old Grace was saying, "Oh, I got some snacks to go for the road, to go when we go off. Oh, what was it? A road trip." And then he just looked at her and he says, "Not coming with you."
Yeah, and it was like, I really didn't understand this bit. This was the one bit of the whole episode that confused me, because after everything they went through, he then said about what's her name? Al.
Grace.
Al is out there
on
her own, and she needs me, and so I'm going to go and find her. And he's like, I'm not coming with you. and all of this stuff, and
she looked really sad, and then he looked really sad.
Yeah.
But I understood. This is what I think.
Right.
This is my take on it. He was growing close to her. Obviously, he knows she's going to die, and I think he thought, I think a lot of her, and I really would love, she is. I can't go through that again. Because obviously his wife died, and he didn't kill her. Remember?
Yeah.
I think it's because he was trying to distance himself from her then, because he's thinking the time is going to come, and I'm going to have to do this, like I do with my wife. Mm-hmm. That's what I think. That's why he thought, I need to go, just get my focus on again.
Yeah.
They were having a nice time, weren't they? That's why she looked so sad, because we were really getting on and getting to know each other and stuff like that. And he had to pull himself away from it, because then you saw him crying in the car, and then he sort of looked just like, pull yourself together, Morgan. Yeah. And then he sort of drove off, didn't he? Mm-hmm. Because I think that's what that was. That's my take on it. I don't know.
Maybe.
That makes a lot of sense, to fair.
Yeah.
Because, that's haunted him, hasn't it? The fact that he couldn't save her, and he didn't even want to kill her, and because she was still his wife in his eyes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe.
No idea. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll find out. It'll become a bit clearer as the remaining episodes go on. But all in all, this was a good episode. They, like I said, they clearly was like a homage to the Dawn of the Dead movie, with them being in the shopping centre full of zombies. You had some pretty hairy moments. The escalator bit
was horrible. That was scary, that bit.
And the comedy things, like with the walkers chasing after the remote control car and all of those kind of things. Some quite interesting little bits they did in the episode, but definitely better than last week's offering.
Yes, definitely. There was more to it, wasn't there, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, it's all good.
So we will see what next week's episode brings.
Hopefully now they've got backup on the right road. Hopefully we'll get some more action.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask a question. You know the woman that came out of the van and said about the farmhouse?
That was the woman from last week.
That is the woman, isn't it? That's what I thought. Is that the woman that had the little boy? She seems really super confident now, doesn't she?
Yeah.
It's like, there's a farmhouse up the road, because that's where they were heading, wasn't it, when they left? Mm-hmm. So it's like, is that woman? Because I thought, who is she?
Yeah.
I think it might be her, but I thought I'd double check when I speak to you. But yeah, that's all done and dusted then. Till next week. Mm-hmm.
Right, okay, so now we move on to the next in our continued reviewing of Stranger Things Season 3. And this is the 5th episode, and this was called The Flayed.
Do I start?
So, yeah, where do we begin?
Well, we opened with Dustin and the gang had been, obviously last week, Erica had got them into the building.
Oh, and it turned into a lift.
And it ended up being an elevator, and it was going really fast, wasn't it? It was going down and down, and they were all like screaming and trying to press the buttons, and nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And then they suddenly stopped.
Yes.
It's like it just stopped. So do you want to just talk about their bit group together?
Yeah, we'll talk about all of their bit in one go. Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously they stopped, and obviously still couldn't get out, and I think it was Robin that said, well, it won't open because it's got it's a key card thing. Mm-hmm. So Justin decided, well, we can make our way back up. Did he say back up, didn't he? So they got out the roof of the elevator and then went, don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, because they then realised...
They really down lots of floors.
They realised quite how far underground they were, didn't they, when they looked up? And you just had all these funny little moments, like Erica going on about wanting to find something to eat, and that she was even willing to eat the green stuff that was in those canisters.
Oh yeah. And if they don't realise I'm back for my sleepover, my mum's going to kill you lot.
Yeah.
Stuff. They go, we don't care. We don't know what to do. So then Dustin started doing a code red again on his phone.
Yeah.
And then
Steve had a wee off the side of the lift.
Oh, that was hilarious. So he had a wee, and then obviously in the elevator, she goes, "Can you just get rid of your, stream or something?"
Yeah.
And then they heard somebody outside.
Yeah.
So the guards opened the elevator, and one of them could smell pee.
Yeah, that was so funny. He was like, "Can you smell that?" And the other one's like, "Smell what?" Because he was smoking a cigarette, wasn't he? And he said, "I can't smell anything." He said, "Smells like pee." And he's like, I don't know what that is. It's really strange. And then they started unloading all these boxes. And I was like,
they were hiding in the roof space of the elevator, weren't they?
Yeah, because I was like, where have they gone? And then they'd all gone
there?
up onto the roof.
Yeah, so they started moving the boxes out, but then the door, as they left, the door started closing, and Steve looked at the goo thing that little Erica was holding. He thought, got an idea.
Yeah.
And he put it, just stopped the door enough for them all to roll out.
Yep.
And then obviously once the door shut, it cracked the container and all this sort of horrible stuff came out of it, didn't it?
Didn't it like burn a hole in the floor? And it was like, glad you didn't end up drinking that. It's like, that could have been very bad for you, Erica, if you'd actually drank that,
Yeah.
So then they went off to decide to explore, and it was so like a 1980s, almost like a James Bond movie with this secret villainous underground layer with these long corridors, and obviously the baddies zooming around in these little like golf buggy type things, and it was just like something out of a Bond movie or so, wasn't it? Like the way it looked. All very, industrial, and they're like, we're going to have a wander around and see what we can find in here. And they were looking for, were they looking for a communications room or something?
Yeah.
That's what they were.
Yeah, because then I realised it's such a long corridor, wasn't it? It was going like, wow.
Yeah.
How far have we got to walk to get to this place?
Mm-hmm.
Was that the bit, because they finally get to that place?
Yeah.
And she was trying to talk to this guy in Russian.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't go too well for them, did it? And she ended up bashing him in the end, didn't she?
Yeah.
She's like, kick some butt.
Was that also the same point when Steve fought the guy as well?
Yeah, the two of them were fighting.
And then Dustin was like, because after Steve knocked him out.
Yeah, she knocked him out, and he goes, hey, at least you won a fight.
Steve, you finally won a fight. He's like, you finally managed to actually win a fight. That was really funny. And then the whole bit, again, they did this on purpose, I'm sure. The whole bit when they were holed up in the communications room definitely gave me Star Wars vibes when they do the same thing when Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Luke get hauled up in the communications room, and they're trying to like hold off all the stormtroopers and stuff. And I was like, this is very reminiscent of that, where they're in the communications room in the middle of an enemy base. I was like, I bet you that's where this was inspired from, this scene. And then it was then like a chase sequence after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. And they got themselves into some sort of some room.
Yeah.
And then they saw the glass, and they looked, and they could see the gate thing, whatever it was, and it had a crack in it, and then it was all the rays coming out of it, wasn't it? And it's like,
and that's what
you see all their faces looking like, ooh.
That's what you're looking at right now, is them the view of them four up against the glass, looking into this room full of scientists and soldiers, and the giant laser that's trying to cut the hole in the upside down open, and they were all like, oh, what is going on in there? So it's like, oh.
So then the other thing that happened, we had last week, Hopper and Joyce were checking all the properties on the map for the mayor.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like ticking them all off, and they went to this one, I think it was Hess Farm or something like that.
Yeah.
And he goes, it looks like somebody's here. You know, it's like somebody's at home or something. And then it had, like, so there was a cup, looked like somebody had a drink. It looked like a cigarette had been put out. So it's basically somebody had been there.
And they could hear a noise or something. Could they hear a noise?
They could hear noises.
Yeah,
they could hear noises. And she said it's coming from underneath us. And there was like an air vent on the floor, at the like ground level on the skirting.
That's
and
right.
And she could see like a glowing, some sort of glowing thing. So obviously somehow they got it open, didn't they?
It was under the bed. They moved the bed, and there was a staircase. There was a staircase.
Oh, that's what they did. They moved the bed, and then there was a staircase underneath. So they went to go investigate, and they heard somebody talking, and there was these two like Russian guys.
Two Russian scientists.
Looking like they were trying to fix something, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't speak any. Oh, that was funny. They didn't speak any English, and it's like Hopper was losing his rag with them, wasn't he?
And this, in my opinion, this was the moment we got introduced to a character that we'll talk a bit more about in the coming episodes, but that goes on to be one of the new fan favourite characters for the Stranger Things.
The little scientist guy with the glasses.
Alexei, yeah.
So yes, basically they were trying to communicate, and then they heard footsteps. Because in the meantime, the motorbike had arrived at the house.
He'd got the tip off from the mayor, and so he was now tracking them. And then he shows up, Mr. Russian Terminator shows up and goes down the stairs, and then you have this really exciting, like, gunfight fight sequence thing.
First, he came behind him, didn't he? And he held the gun to his head, and the guy was saying, "You won't shoot me." And he's going, "I'm going to shoot you," and all this stuff. He said, "You won't. You're a policeman. You don't do things like that here.
Yeah.
You're not going to do it." And then obviously that's when the fight ensued, wasn't it?
And you had bits like the bullets narrowly avoiding Joyce and, things like that. And the poor scientist guys scared to death, like, not knowing what was going on. And Hopper trying to fight and wrestle the gun off of the Russian bloke, and it was all like quite pandemonium-y, wasn't it?
It was brilliant, yeah. Because the next thing you know, they're outside, and the car, he'd done something to their car before he went in the house.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Rrr." And they'd obviously got the scientist guy. The other guy they'd left, hadn't they, in the house, in the place. And they were like walking through the woods, and he was telling her, "Yeah, we're walking to Illinois." And she's going, "How far is it to Illinois?" He goes, "Joyce, we're not really walking to Illinois."
Yeah, and it was so funny because they were having this like little argument, and Joyce was trying to make friends with this scientist guy.
Yeah,
and was like
trying to speak to him, said about the magnets, they kept falling off. What does this mean? Trying to see if he understood what she was talking about.
And he's got no idea what's going on or who these people are, what they're talking about, where they're going, what they're doing, and they're just traipsing through the woods. Hopper's really angry.
And they got to a petrol station, didn't they? Because they were obviously thirsty and stuff, and hungry, and he was eating. Scientist guy, wasn't it slush puppies he was getting?
Yeah, I think so, because they had that bit to begin with where they were all really thirsty, and they went and just helped themselves to cans of Coke, and they were just stood at the fridges.
They were drinking something,
and the guy's like, "Are you going to pay for those?" or something. And then he found the slush puppy machine. And he was just obviously never seen anything like that before. They obviously didn't have those in Russia. And he sort of fell in love with the slush puppy thing, which again is something that comes up later on.
Yeah.
But he was in love with the slush puppies.
He had this whole conversation with the guy behind the counter about the paying for it and all this stuff. And then he spotted something outside, and there was a guy drawn up in a nice car getting his petrol.
Oh, God, yeah.
Thought, I think we're going to have to... He said, "I got an idea." And it was, and he even had his initials, like his name on it, wasn't it?
It was something really cheap. Like the car was called like the Toddmobile or something like that.
Yeah,
something really cheesy.
He's got his nice car, and he says, "Sorry, sir, I'm policeman. We've got to take your car. We need to get this dangerous criminal to the police station." He said, "You can't take my car." I said, "Yeah, sorry, we're going to take your car. Don't worry, you get it back at some point." And they just took off. And
and he's like, Joyce comes out, like, "What's going on?" And he's like, Detective Byers, it's a good thing you're here. This man's letting us use his car so that we can take this dangerous prisoner. And then she said a completely different thing to what Hopper had said to him about what this Alexei guy was
She made it
wanted
worse
for.
by her lying was even worse than his.
And he's like, "Where do I get?" And he's like, "It's fine, we'll drop it off at the station, you can come and pick it up." "Which station?" And he's like, "I didn't quite catch what you said," and all this. And they just like tore away in the car.
They drove off and they saw the number plate, and it's like, oh dear. But unfortunately, the cyber guy had trailed them somehow, and he ended up at the petrol station. That poor guy.
Oh, I know. Yeah, because the police were all outside because the guy was reporting his car being stolen. He said, he was a detective, but he didn't know where he came from, and this, that, and the other. And then the Russian Terminator guy comes in and he's chatting to the guy behind the counter, and the guy's like, "The police are there," and he's like, "Didn't he grab his head and slam it on the counter or something and be like, you should be worried about me, not about the police?" And he's like, "Now tell me what you know," and all of this, and he sort of described who they were, what they were like, and who they had a guy with them, and all of this kind of stuff. And there was, again, very Terminator, like he sort of walks out and then he's just sort of like striding in the direction that they drove in, and it's like, oh dear.
Then they pulled up in this place, so then she goes, "What are we doing here?" And she goes, something about the journalist. And remember, obviously, the guy with the beard from last time.
The conspiracy theory
really
man.
Weird, really weird guy. You go, "Look at the camera," and all this stuff. And he goes, "Oh, you saw the journalist."
Yeah.
And obviously, as soon as he got there, and I realised, they're gone to see him.
Murray.
So they took them to see Murray. So that was the end of what happened with them. So then we obviously had Will and the guys. Yep. After their encounter with Billy, trying to decide what to do next now that they know it's Billy. We had the whole, the thing with what the girl's doing in there and all this stuff. And the girls were just laughing, and they're doing girl things. They were in the bathroom, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then they were having a conversation outside.
And the girls were just laughing at them.
And they came out and said, "We can't hear you, we're only in the next room."
And then they knock on the door, and they open the door, and it was Nancy and Jonathan.
Yep, that's right. And then that was when they then had the catch up between the two little groups.
So Max and that told Nancy and Jonathan about everything and about Heather. So they thought, right, we're going to go investigate. So obviously we're heading for Heather's house, weren't they? They went to Heather's house first. They all got in the car and they go, kids, seriously, I don't know whether it was the kind of car they were getting in. I don't know. He goes, just shut up, get your seatbelt. She was going, get your seatbelts on, you guys. So the first they went to Heather's house.
Oh yeah, and
that's where they saw the blood.
Yeah, because Elle used her powers to break the door open, didn't she?
That's right. Because they were knocking on the door and no answer, so she just went. Pfft.
Yeah, and they went in and had a look around the house, and then she did her thing where she was trying to get a sense of things.
Yeah.
And it was like they were taken from here, and they're like, okay, so
that's when they decided to go to the hospital to see Doris.
Because then that's when they came up with the whole concept of the Flayed, because then they worked out that Billy was gathering people and they're being possessed by the Mind Flayer, who is turning them into the Flayed, as they called them. So they gave them a name, and they were like, oh, this group of people, they're being possessed to create an army or something. So then they decide, after Nancy tells them what happened at the hospital and all the weirdness, they decide to go to the hospital to visit Mrs. Driscoll to see if they can find out some more.
Because then there was that woman again, because obviously last time she had to pretend she was the granddaughter, didn't she?
Yeah.
And then it's all trying to pile past with the kids and everything, and she's going, sorry, only so many visitors. Mm-hmm. So all the other guys sat in the waiting room, didn't they? So also all that stuff ensued with, are you going to talk to Elle and sort it all out?
Yeah.
And meanwhile,
sharing Jonathan the M&Ms and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Jonathan and Nancy had gone to see the woman, and she wasn't there, was she?
No.
Because where is she? Where is she? And then they turn around and Heather's dad, Tom, was there.
Yeah.
And he was all weird.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh no. So did he? No, he didn't chase her. What happened there? Because she went off. So maybe she ran away, and then obviously Jonathan got cornered with him. And when she ran away, the other guy, the one that's related to that guy that won Celebrity Big Brother, what's his name?
Gary Busey's son, yeah.
Yeah. He was there, and he was also weird. And there was two things going on. She was with that one. He was with Tom.
Yeah.
Poor old Jonathan. He got right battered.
I know. He got thrown across the room. He got hit with stuff, and he really got beaten up, didn't he?
No, and at one point you thought he's knocked out, and then it was really cool the way they did that, because they're in two different places.
Yeah.
It's almost synchronized, where she went and battered the other guy with a fire extinguisher?
Fire extinguisher, yeah.
And then he was going to hit him, and he got him with the scissors, wasn't it? The scissors. Mm-hmm. He killed him.
Yeah.
And so then we have the two dead bodies. They're either end of this corridor, two different rooms, and then they start going all mushy, didn't they?
Yeah, and then the mush.
The lights started going all weird first, didn't they? And even the young guys in the waiting room sort of and Will sort of thinking there's something going on here. They're here.
Didn't Will get that feeling again in the back of his neck?
Yeah, he said it's here, and then they went all mushy, and then the thing started like it has before. It came crawling out of their bodies, but then you saw it was so cool, because obviously they're each side of the corridor, and then it came out of both rooms, and it went down the corridor, and then they merged, and then this huge monster thing.
Yeah, and because of where they came from, you had Nancy at one end of the corridor, Jonathan at the other, and this thing in the middle.
The floor, and it was going from his room to her room in the middle of the corridor, and then the two blob crawly thing merged together, and then just created a monster.
It grew. It was horrible. It was all jelly-fied, and it sort of started expanding and getting bigger, and then this massive mush. Then you got legs coming out of it, and then a head, and then it had the big, the classic monster moment where the last thing you get is the face, and it goes rah, and it shows all these sharp teeth, and then it's like, oh my god, and then
it just ended like that. It just showed them to be the either side of the corridor. They merged in the middle, and then it just went made the sort of hissy sound of them, and then it just went doo-doo, the music started.
That's right, yeah. It was the last image was the creature roaring and revealing all its teeth and stuff, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, oh my god. So but it was gross. It was horrible looking. It was just like a meat monster.
Yeah.
All meaty and drippy and gooey and it's disgusting. But yeah, so it was a really good episode again. And yeah, like I said, Alexei has gone on to be like a fan favorite character now. He's like very much,
Yeah, he's cute.
a lot of love for that character.
He's cute. I think he'll be good as the series goes on, Dom. I think everyone will like. Probably that's why because obviously until you've seen the rest of the episode, you won't know why he's such a fan favorite.
Yeah.
Dom.
Well, that's not a spoiler. That's a thing about the fact that there is a thing called the internet, Mum, that's been around for a little while. And
so they said after episode 5, he's now the fan favorite.
All over this thing called the internet, there's been lots of stuff about this character called Alexei and about how he's like a really popular character. So yeah.
Maybe I'll put it so I can see why they say that. I caught you out, boy.
Oh, dear.
Anywho, that was very exciting. So roll on next week's when we'll get to see a bit more about Alexis, maybe.
So that was Stranger Things. So now we are going to move on to our final episode of this week. Yeah, very strange. Very cool, but very strange.
Good.
And this was the 4th episode of Preacher, and this episode is called Search and Rescue.
Yes.
Do you want to lead us in?
I will do. So we started with All Father, which is Star, and God chatting, and they were laughing about him, and he said they were going to make him suffer.
Yeah.
And obviously, Star kept saying he wanted to do the
vagina thing.
The vagina thing. They had that joke, and God was asking about Jesus, and he said he's fine. He said no, I know that the other one, the strange one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Humperdoo.
Yeah, because he said the one you call Humperdoo, and then he was like, "Oh, it's a term of endearment. We love him very much, and all of this lot."
Yeah, so he was like saying, "Oh, he likes him," and he said he's such a nice, he's going to do great things. And then he was saying how he was obviously Star was lying, saying, "Oh yeah, he's fine," and thinking, "Yeah, you haven't even found him." So then he said, God got like, "So well, don't worry, we're going to carve a vagina into Jesse's soul," and like Star went, "His soul?"
And the other thing I found, I don't know what you made of this, was the little comment when he said to Star, when he was like sort of almost flattering him, and then he said, about how he's done well as his servant, and then he said about his reward, and he said your long desired reward will soon be at hand or something. And I was like, what is the reward he's after? I mean, is it like, Zoe thinks it's the apocalypse, that her Star, what he wants is the apocalypse so that everything can start afresh, but I wondered whether there was something else that we just don't know about yet or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, because it does get mentioned later on, doesn't it? But again, we don't find out what it is.
Yeah.
So we had that bit, and then we saw the plane from last week, because obviously it hit something, and it was like crushing, and God was there laughing. But then I thought, we said he was in the house last week. He's God. He's everywhere, isn't he? So he's in the plane, isn't he? So.
Yeah, and he was laughing maniacally. He was laughing maniacally as the plane was like nosediving.
Yeah. And they ended up in the sea.
Yep.
And then luckily they had a dinghy. It's like, phew. So do you want to talk about that bit altogether?
Yeah, let's talk about the whole Jesse.
Apart from the last bit of it.
Yeah.
So basically they landed in, and he was going, and obviously Jesse was like, yeah, see, that was lucky, wasn't it? And he was like cussing, wasn't it? He was cussing him, God, and that. And he was going, he got in the dinghy, and then the water was getting in the dinghy, and then he was going, Hitler was wrong, and the pilot was going, what are you on about?
Yeah.
And he's like, he didn't see him, obviously. And the pilot was getting all like stressing, and he goes, be positive.
Yeah.
And then he went, what? Come on, what are you doing? Doing your hair or something?
Yeah.
Come on, we're supposed to get the water out of this dinghy. He's like, okay. He's very positive now. Yeah, so then we had, so they're in the dinghy, and then obviously they've been out in the middle of the sea for ages, and Jesse noticed that the pilot was getting all scabby, wasn't he? Burning up. And obviously, because he wasn't noticing it, because he told him to keep positive, he wasn't feeling the pain or anything. He was like, he's so positive. It's like he goes, oh, let's see if we can do anything about that. And so I think he got some found something. But then he made a sail for the dinghy, didn't he?
Yeah.
And while he was doing that, he was so pleased with himself. The pilot fell asleep, like hanging over the side of the dinghy, and he kept cussing God again, saying, "Look what I did!" And then that was when he realised. He told the pilots, "Like, wake up! Look what I done! We've got a sail. All we need now is some wind, and we're going to do this and all this."
There were several moments throughout this little scene, these scenes, where Jesse kept using the Genesis power to make the pilot do things. And at one point, he got annoyed with him and he said, "God damn, stop being so positive." And so then the pilot was like, "Oh," and then he was like, "Oh, my legs." And he was like, "Oh, the pain is excruciating." And then he's like, "Feel no pain." So then the pilot wouldn't feel any pain.
When he fell asleep, he didn't notice what had happened to him, did he?
Because he feels no pain and he had his arm in the water, when he woke him up and he sat up and half his arm was gone because a shark had eaten it, but he couldn't feel it because he had been ordered to feel no pain. And he's looking at this bloody stump and going, "Oh, that looks bad. I bet if I felt pain, that would really hurt right now." And Jesse's like panicking and going, "We need to sort this out." And he's like, ties a tourniquet round his arm. Yeah. And he's like, "Don't worry." And he kept reassuring him and saying, "Don't worry, we're going to get through this and we're going to get to Australia. And in a little while we'll be sat. This is a test from God. God is testing our resolve. And we're going to be sat on the beach eating steaks and drinking beer. And we're going to be laughing about this. And it'll all be worth it." And then the pilot...
And then the wind blew and the sail went.
Yeah, that's right. The sail went flying. And so then he was really angry again. He's like, "Come on, why are you going to let this man die just to prove a point?" And he's like, "What kind of an arsehole are you?"
It's to do with you and me. It's nothing to do with him. Why should he be punished?
And this poor guy is like gradually deteriorating in so many ways. And then he started calling Jesse God, like thinking Jesse was God. And he was saying God because he was coughing and all this lot, and he was not in a good way. And he's like, "Help me, God, please save me, God."
When he shouted at God, and he goes, "What did he say?"
Yeah.
He said, "It's all going to be fine." He said, "It's all right." He said, "Just wait, everything's going to be fine." He had to lie to him, sort of thing, because you're speaking to God, like you're some sort of Messiah because you're speaking to God, didn't he?
But then he started, I think,
that was so sad.
I think in his delirium, he started thinking that Jesse was God. And he's like, "I can see what you can do. I've seen your powers. You are God." And he's like, "Help me, God, save me." And he's like, "I can't do it." And he's like, "Just do something." And then Jesse goes, "Don't die," like that. And then the guy's like, "Oh, you did it." And he's like, "You did it. You helped me. You say," and then he starts coughing again. And then he's like, like that. And then you're like, "Oh, okay."
And he died.
And then he died.
And then poor old Jesse, wrapped him up in something, so let him float on the water, put his pilot cap on him.
Yeah.
And then the bloody shark hit him.
Yeah, because he was saying some words, wasn't he? Because obviously, as he's a preacher, he was actually doing almost like a eulogy. And this body's floating away, and then like you said, sharks clearly came and ripped the body to pieces, and he
just sat in this thingy in the middle of nowhere. And that's how we saw him, obviously, till later on.
Yeah.
But then obviously, we went back to Masada.
Masada, yeah.
And saw the bit where seen the bit where Cassidy was being moved around, looking like Hannibal Lecter.
Yep.
And he knew he had this thing in his hand. And they were pushing him along, and then they said, "Oh, make way! There's dignitaries coming through," or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
And they sort of stopped, and then all the white suit guys walked past, and Blimmin' Hitler was with them.
Yeah, and so we were right. What the speculation from the other week?
When he said he had to go to a conference.
Yeah.
At the airport, that's what he was on about. So he walked past, and the guy, even Frankie, went, "He's definitely not from heaven."
And then he got really starstruck, didn't he? And he's like, "That guy right there, he's the real deal." And he's talking about did he say about the boogeyman? And he was like, "But this guy, the things he did, oh, well, I wish I could have spoken to him. Oh man, I wish I could have got his autograph," and all of this kind of stuff. And Cassidy's kind of looking as if "What's wrong with you?" What?
He was talking away and carrying on walking, and then he turned around and there was no one behind him.
Yeah.
He's like, "Hello." So I went back, and then Cassidy was still there, looking on his whatever they put him on. And then he sort of said about, started telling him, about what he'd done to the guards, and he's like, looking at him, going, "You're tied up. You're still in that same position they had you in." And he was taunting him, wasn't he? And then he saw the legs of the guys and he went, oh, crap.
Yeah, because he said to him about how he said, well, you know, what if I told you that I had an angel feather and I picked a lock with it and then I killed both your guys and then I'm waiting for you because now I'm going to kill you. And he's like,
Yeah.
And then Cassidy just launched himself at Frankie.
Yeah, because he spotted the legs first and he went, oh, crap. And then he launched himself. And there's like the big fight. He had a massive fight with him,
trying to use the big gun on Cassidy, but it didn't work. And then he's throwing him around, and then Cassidy got the upper hand because they were trading blows to begin with. So it was like backwards and forwards, punch, knock each other. And then Cassidy got the upper hand. He was flinging him around and just beating the crap out of him. And then when he got him on the ground, Frankie was all bloody and he's trying to crawl away. And Cassidy grabbed his trousers and pulled his trousers down. And then you heard he like reached down and you didn't see it, but you heard a like that, and you're like, oh, he's getting his own back for all of the penis torture.
Yeah.
And then
he impaled him on the gun through his bum,
which is what he said he would do to him. He told him that, didn't he? A couple of weeks ago, he said how he was going to kill Frankie was he was going to get his gun and he was going to stick it up his arse so it came out of the top of his head. And so what you saw was you heard this crunch noise. Cassidy's face got showered in blood. He grinned, and then he walked away. And as he did, the camera
they showed the top of his head, didn't they? And it obviously cut through into the skull.
Yep. And then as the camera panned out, you saw that he was in a crouched sort of position with the gun in the ground, and it was obviously going up him from the back and going all the way up through his head. Now, what I will say about this bit, I'm a little bit confused here because. You know how this show likes to show us little flashes of things? And in last week's episode, we saw Cassidy in that factory in Bensonhurst, which was owned by Frankie. The product. Now, he has now killed Frankie, who was going to be taking him to Bensonhurst. So now you're like, wait, so did that never actually happen? Was that just one of these,
this is probably showing what would happen once he does get there.
Yeah.
They're going to do this to him and create this product.
Mm.
That was sort of quite clever but confusing at the same time.
Because I also had the same feeling about Jesse, because in the very first episode, Jesse fell out of an aeroplane.
He fell on the ground in the middle of Australia.
But this time he didn't.
He was in a boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really confusing, because I was going to say to you about that. I was thinking, hang on, they crashed, they're in a boat in the sea.
Yeah.
But when it started, the first season, when it started the first episode, we saw him land on sand or like a desert.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really confused now.
I mean, you never know. Maybe these things will still happen, just like not. We've been sort of. It's twisting and turning the story, making us think that what we know is not what we think we know, and all of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe it was just there as little teasers of like, to throw you off track so you don't know exactly.
Well, maybe that was God's idea. He wasn't sure how he was going to do it.
Yeah, maybe.
He thought, maybe I'll just let him no, but actually it'd be funny if I made him just land in the middle of the ocean. I don't know, we don't know. But anyway, so obviously Cassidy then was free and sort of sneaking around, and he tried to get in the lift. And the lift opened, there's Tulip.
Yeah.
But just before he spoke to her, that woman, Star's woman,
Featherstone,
put the gun to him. Yeah. And he's like, she was on about she was looking for her. She said she knows she's going to come for you. And he's going, no, don't. What tulip? Which tulip? I know lots of tulips.
Yeah, I knew a couple of daisies and a couple of tulips. I never met a rose before, though. I never met a rose. And he's like, so it could be any of them. And she's like, you know who I'm talking about. She's a bit stupid. And Tulip stood there out of sight this whole time, grimacing. Like, she wants to just get out and start fighting with this woman, but he's like looking at her as if to say no. And then all the other guys show up, all the other guards, and
take him back to his cell.
Yeah, he pressed the button, didn't he? So the lift closed, so they never found out she was in the lift.
Yeah, he's like not letting on that she's there. So then they took him back to the cell, and then she sort of punched him, hit him with something.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh God. And then the angel's going, oh, you're back so soon.
Yeah, how was Bensonhurst? And he's like, I never made it there. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he was having that conversation about Tulip.
He mentioned Tulip, didn't he? And he's saying about she's going to... And then he started thinking, oh, she's going to keep trying to save me.
Yeah.
But whether he's thinking he's worried she's going to get hurt doing it or Well, she'll find out that I've gone, or I'm not here, or I'm somewhere else, or whatever. I don't know what he meant by that.
Well, I think he realised what was going on, because after they put him in the cell, they all went and stood in the opposite cell.
Yeah, they sat on the other stuff.
Because they knew that she was going to come and try and rescue him. So, and that's what his fear was. His fear was, because of what Tulip is like as a person, she won't stop coming. And it's going to ultimately, he's worried it's ultimately going to lead to her death. So he's like, I need to do something about this.
Yeah, so he's got himself out of his shackles again, didn't he?
Oh, that was horrible. He
broke his feet, didn't he?
No, he skinned his hands.
Oh, it was his hands this time, wasn't it?
Because he was trying to pull, and eventually he managed to pull his hands out, but it ripped all the skin off his hands. So then they were just all fleshy.
Back anyway, doesn't it?
And the angel was like,
horrible,
what are you going to do? And he's like, I'm going to kill you. And the angel's like, what? And you're like,
and then
what?
He went up the wall, didn't he? He went up the wall. And then he got him and bit him.
Yep, ripped his throat out.
And he ripped his throat out. And then the door opened and it was the angel. He said, you could have just asked.
Yeah, or you could have just told me the plan or whatever.
They could have said something like that, and then he just grabbed him and just flew out the top with him.
And that was so cool, because it was basically the idea being, obviously he's an angel, so if he dies, he'll be well, not reincarnated, but like corporealized or whatever. So he was like freed from his imprisonment, and then he was able to come back again. And I was like, oh, Cassidy's really clever. And then, like you said, the angel grabbed him and then flew up out of the tower thing that had an open roof, and they just flew off.
God knows where he's took him. So then, meanwhile, obviously, she'd come out of the lift when they'd gone away, and she was walking, and then that Hoover 2 came up to her and said, we need somebody to go and help an emissary, is it?
Yeah,
emissary?
Need to be a valet.
So they needed to help me. Need a valet, no selfies, no autographs. You just need to go in this. So she was sort of looking.
And he's like,
was that before she went in and she was trying to talk him out of it, saying, I really got to get back to work. I'm really busy and I can't really help you. And
I need to be in the dungeons and I don't want to get in trouble with my superior and all of this stuff. And he's like, this is far more important.
So he put her in the room, and then he sort of like left her, and then she like looked out the door to see where the guards were. And the guards started walking towards her. She's like, oh, shut the door again. Oh, God. And then Jesus came out of the sauna or whatever it was, shower.
Yeah.
Just in a towel.
Mm-hmm. And it was actual Jesus.
I know, she was eyeing him up. It was hilarious.
Yeah, because he stood there just in a little towel, isn't he? And he's all like steam coming off his body and stuff. And she's like, hi. And he's like, hey, I'm Jesus Christ. And it's like, whoa, this is not Humpadoo.
Wasn't they said you can't touch him, but if he touches you, you need to react or something?
Yeah, that's right.
She didn't know what she was going into, did she?
It's like she was being pimped out.
Okay, yeah. And then he shook her hand, didn't he? And then he went, you're in trouble. You got some troubles.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like trying to throw it off, and he asked her a name, and she made some name up.
She used the Grail name she's used before. I can't remember what it is now, but she said that name, and she spun him a yarn basically. And
I don't think he was falling for it at all.
He's just kind of.
There was a knock on the door, wasn't there?
And it was.
And he goes, "Do you mind?"
Yeah.
So she opened the door, and oh bloody hell! I thought, oh damn! All fathers walked in, and then the thing with Jesus saying about the ear.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he's like, "What happened to you?" And he's like, "Oh, I've been assured by my doctor it will all be fine. It all needs to just heal, and it will be just..." Because he said, your ear, it looks like... And before he could say what it looked like... Oh, that was so funny.
So meanwhile, while he's in the room, she's sort of like keeping out away. And then as he walked out, he sort of said... He came back, didn't he? And he said, I recognise you. And he's sort of looking at her. And she didn't say a lot, did she? So then Jesus distracted him by saying about, how is my son?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, how is my child? Well, he said, how is my child? And then he said, my descendant, what is he like? And then he was like, oh yes, and he said, I hear he's a hell of a dancer, or he's a heck of a dancer. And her star's like, oh yes, he's very entertaining, he's very talented, my lord, and all of this lot.
So he was quite quick to get out of there then,
and
wasn't
Jesus,
he? Thought, I don't have any more questions.
Yeah, because Jesus said, when will I get to meet him? And he said, oh, all in good time. It's all part of the plan. When the time is right, your grace, you will get to meet him. And he's like, and because Jesus kept looking over at Tulip and realizing, and then he saw that she was reaching for her gun because her star was sort of going, you look very familiar to me. Have we met before? And all of this lot. And so Jesus was obviously trying to throw him off. And when he was asking him all the questions about Humperdoo, that's when her star got nervous and they left in a hurry. And then Jesus was like, looked at her, and then it was like, oh, I haven't been completely honest with you. And
so she told him everything, and she came clean with him. And he said he wanted to help her, didn't he?
Oh, and he's like, he's so awesome. It's like, and it was so funny when we were watching it. Zoe was like, Jesus is so cool. He's like, he's so
he was
nice.
Like, if he was like that in real life, it'd be great, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and he was just like such a cool
so
dude, and he was really sweet, and like, I want to help you. And she's like, it's going to be really dangerous, and like, you know, I know it's not a good thing, but I can't help myself. I sort of kill people and all of this kind of thing, and I don't think it's the right place for you to be. And he's like, trust me, I can help you with this one. So it's like,
he said he was going to go to the dungeon and see what he could do.
Yeah.
So he went down there, and then Star's woman was there, and she heard, obviously they came out that cell thing and thought somebody's coming.
Yeah.
So they went towards them. They were all like bowing down and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And oh no, wasn't it before that? They were in that bit trying to be quiet, and that guy kept going, I need to go to the toilet, I need to go.
If I'd known we were going to be in here this long, yeah.
He shot some guy, and it wasn't even him, because he went, oh, I'll just pee in my pants then.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even the guy that she killed the wrong guy.
I know.
She just killed some random bloke. So then obviously they'd heard that he was coming, and then what? You can finish that little bit. What happened? So he went towards her. He said he was looking for the dungeons. Go on.
And she said, what? These aren't dungeons. And he's like, I can quite clearly see. He said, I'm here to bless the prisoners. And she said, oh, we don't have prisoners in this bit. This is purely for training. And he sort of cocked his head as if to say, don't lie to me. And she said, but we can take you to the other wing where we hold all of the Mormons and all of the pederists, and you can bless them. And he's like, no, there's some prisoners down here in particular I'd like to see. And she's like, and then she put her hand on him and she went, Jesus, I can't let you past. And then he looked at her, and I was thinking, oh, something's going to happen here. But it didn't. Instead, he came back into the room.
He went back to Tulip, and he had a handprint in blood on his tunic, didn't he?
Yeah, and he's like, I'm really sorry. I can't. It didn't work, and all that. And you're like, oh, bless him. He tried to help her, and she's like,
I know.
We'll go with my plan.
I'll go my plan. So they sort of headed off, and then he heard people coming again, and he went, worship me. And she looked at him and goes, kneel.
Yeah.
And so she was kneeling, and then the guys again would go, oh, Jesus. And then the old woman came behind and would go, oh, we haven't got time. Sorry, Jesus, we're so busy. We haven't got time for this.
Some of us have got work to do.
She got them all out of the way, didn't she? And as they went, Tulip went up to one of them and goes, what's happened? And he goes, the vampire? Is it the vampire's
gone?
Yeah,
he's escaped, yeah.
Gone. Yeah. So then it showed her in the cell and found the feather.
And Jesus was looking, and he's like, oh my, whatever happened here? You know, he's like looking at all the blood and the mess.
She says, right, well, he's out, so that's good. So that means I can just get on and do something else. And then she sort of took a wig off, and he goes, what are you going to do? And she said, I can do what the hell I like. And he goes, Can I come?
Yeah. Oh, bless him. Can I come with you?
We had the other bit where the little guy, the Hoover 2, was setting up the conference room for the big visit from Hitler.
Yeah.
And sharpening the pencils and checking there was no bugs in the room. And a star came in, didn't he?
Yeah.
And they had this chat. And that was when he said something to him about, you do realise that, like basically it's similar to what God was saying, like you're going to get your big reward at the end of this. It's very important.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, I'll leave you, there's a presentation package on your desk. I'll leave you with that. And he left him.
Yeah.
So he's like looking. And he said something about looking pretty or something. So obviously the word pretty made him feel like, I'm pretty.
Oh, yes.
After last week when he was saying, am I
sitting pretty?
Sitting pretty, that was it. He's sitting there looking, and he started looking through the book.
And what did it say on the book? It was like, was it Countdown Apocalypse 2020 or something like this? Yeah. And he started looking, and it's like, what the plans are.
He was also thinking about this pretty thing in his head. And then all of a sudden the ear fell off.
Oh, that was gross.
And when he moved it away, the thing it fell on was a picture of Jesse.
Jesse, yeah.
It's like, ooh.
And then he screwed his face up again and had his mean grimace again of like sort of thing.
See, and then there was a bit I got really confused about because I thought they'd lost Humperdoo.
Yeah, well, earlier on, so okay, I know what happened here. So during that same conversation with Hoover 2, he asked him about the fact that they were still looking for the Christ child, and then he said about the cloning process, and he said, how's the cloning process going? And he said, yeah, we're having some results. He said it's not quite ready for unveiling yet. And he's like, well, keep me posted as to how it goes. And then
basically they probably got. Then we had.
Well, we had a person talking to a guard because all you got was legs, and you got a gun got handed over, and the person said, "Oh, it's a Luger," and he's like, "Very nice," and he's like, "Okay, you can go in, but I can only let you in for 5 minutes." And then he's like, what did he say to him about like, don't tell anybody about this and all of this kind of stuff.
You can't say anything that you've seen in there or something.
And then you see Hitler, and then you see it's Hitler, and he goes into this dark room, and he
long dark bit, and then at the end there's a light, and there's a cagey thing.
No, well, there was
like a cage or sort of like some container.
And there was a stage, and then when the lights came on, when the lights came on, there was on the stage was a Humperdoo. I say a Humperdoo.
A Humperdoo.
And he stood there looking like, oh.
And he went, "Mein Gott!"
Yeah.
Mein Gott.
And he's like, look at you. Look at you. And all this stuff. And he's like, very interesting. And then
he said, I hear you have skills. Did he say, I hear you have skills or something?
Yeah, he's like,
there's a piano next to him.
And then he's like, oh, well then, my friend. Let us see what you can do. And he goes over and cracks his fingers, sits down at the piano, and he's like, I think we shall start with a jaunty, uplifting number. And he starts playing the piano. And then that was the end of that. And that was the end of that scene, wasn't it?
So we didn't see if he danced or what, did we? Then we go back. So we got poor old Jesse stuck in the thingy. The guy's gone. And then he realises, I can see a beach.
And he's just off the coast.
Wow. I made it, and then went stamped on the screen, Australia.
Yeah.
Like, you made it. Yeah. We see that bit. And then we see the Saint and Eugene in New Mexico.
They've just arrived at the Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf of Mexico, that's it. And he's like looking all pensive, and Eugene's going, can you hear him? Can you see him? Can you feel him? It's like he does.
And he's like, how do you know where he is? How do you know he's in Australia? And all of this, and the Saint is just looking into the distance. And he's sort of saying, what are we going to do then? Are we going to get a boat? How are we going to get there? We can't swim there and all of this stuff. And then he gets his gun out.
And then he got his gun, and he did something to the gun, didn't he?
He blew on the trigger.
Made it into a magic gun.
He blew the trigger so it went red hot, like it had been in a furnace or something.
Okay. Yeah. And then he shot it into the ground.
And then that was cool, because we then got to see the bullet travelling through the earth, through the centre of the earth, and then out the other side, and then all you get is like upside down, and there's a guy, and he's like...
The guy on the beach.
And it was, Skippy.
He said, did you just come through you didn't just come through the centre of the earth. How did you do that? And the next thing...
I thought that was physically impossible, mate.
and then it killed him.
Yeah, and then the camera turns the right way round, and it's the Saint, and then Eugene crawls out of the hole. And then it's like, wow, they just literally travelled...
He started walking down the beach, and Eugene was trying to catch him up. And as they walked away, we spotted the dinghy.
Yep. And it's like, oh, they've arrived in Australia. Jesse's in Australia. And that was how it ended.
I was really confused, because obviously before all that bit happened at the end, it's like, you're in the wrong place, mate. What are you doing in New Mexico?
Why did they go to the Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah, thinking, mate, you're in the wrong place. And then when he did that, I thought, oh, so cool.
That was very clever.
And that's how it ended.
So, yes, that was awesome.
It's amazing. It's bizarre and so fun. And they all co-produced that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, because all their names were on the credits, wasn't it? So
yeah, that was great. I love that program. It was great.
Yes, it's just bonkers. It really is.
Who would you rather have, the lovely, very gentle Jesus or Humperdoo?
I like Jesus. I think Jesus is cool. Jesus is a dude.
Yeah. That's a really good portrayal of him as well. It's really nice. It's nice, and even though it's all like piss taken about religion in that respect, it's like that was lovely.
Well, it's like
lovely.
It's like the respect thing. Like, you know, when Tulip was talking to him and she was going to say shit, but she went, "Oh, it's all this kind of stuff," and she censored herself because she was thinking
she was in awe of him.
Yeah, it's
she?
like this is Jesus. I can't swear in front of Jesus, you know, and all of this stuff.
No, so I wonder if he'll go on her travels with her.
Well, it seems
to take you.
Well, it seems that way. So yeah.
That's God off, isn't it? If he gets involved, it'd be like, oh no, my rebellious son.
Yeah. Can't wait for the next one.
Good. No, me either. It's so good. It's such a good end to a podcast, that programme.
Yes.
Brilliant. Love it.
So that's everything covered for this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. It was
short and sweet, but good content.
Yeah,
At
and
least
they were all
good content.
They were all exciting shows this week.
Yeah.
So. Oh, and I remembered the thing. I found the thing, by the way. What it was? It was
amazing.
Yeah, it was a Star Wars related thing. So the Star Wars TV show, The Mandalorian, which is about a bounty hunter, she's joined the cast of that. So that was what the thing was. So,
that'd be alright then.
Yeah, that was
something different.
That was the thing.
You have to look out for all these things now.
But there's going to be. I tell you what, this Disney Plus thing. There's so much cool stuff that's going to be on it, though. I mean, like they showed a trailer for this movie that's going to be on around Christmas time called Noelle, which is about Santa's daughter, and it looks so funny. And it's like, oh, you know, like last year they had the Christmas Chronicles, which was on Netflix. This year, Noelle looks like it's going to be this year's version of the Christmas Chronicles. Like it's going to be like another good Christmas movie to watch. And, you know, and
there'll be one that you'll watch over time.
Yeah, and then there's all these shows that they're bringing out. There's a really weird thing. I have no idea what it is, but it's called The World According to Jeff Goldblum. I have no idea what that's going to be, but, you know.
Maybe just be buzzing around people's houses and spying on them. You know, like you say, there's a fly in the house. You go, that's Auntie Ethel coming to see what we're up to.
Oh, it's just Jeff Goldblum.
It'll be Jeff Goldblum going. Yeah, that'll be hilarious, wouldn't it? And there's like a voiceover, and it's just this fly watching everything.
Oh yeah, funny.
But yeah, it was good chat. Like I say, everything was great this week. So cool.
More next week, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much for listening. And as I said at the top of the podcast, please leave us your comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these things. And even if it's just stuff to do with the D23 stuff that I brought up and things like that. But also, you know, on the shows, that would be great. And the like button, make sure you hit that thumbs up. That would be fantastic. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here or if you're somebody that just hasn't committed yet. Take that step, make that commitment, join the Geek-Dom, that would be fantastic. Also, check out the description box for the links to my Twitter, so you can come and follow and chat to me on there. And also the donation medium, so if you should feel generous enough to help towards the podcast and towards us doing bigger and better things with this and with the channel in general, that would be fantastic. You're under no obligation to do so, but I would appreciate it if you did. There we go. So thank you once again for joining me, Mother.
It's all right. It's a pleasure as always.
And I will see you here again next time.
Indeed you will.
So you all take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye, 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 bye.